Well, my radio co-hosts today have both written books on the topic of the paranormal, and that would be Jill Martin Rishi in studio, the daughter of Dr. Walter Martin, and Eric Barger. You hear both of these voices on this program a lot, and we carry Eric's book. We'll say more about that later in the program. Jill and Eric, I'm glad you could drop by the studio today and do this very, very timely topic.
Good to be here, Jan.
Glad to be there, Jan.
As you both wrote your respective books, you both told me that you were not enveloped in any dread or fear. You didn't experience any darkness. You weren't concerned really about the dark issues that you were writing about. Jill, why is that?
Well, we had been praying. We had people praying for us, and we recognized, first of all, this was going to be a spiritual battle. God called us, my husband and I, to do this, Kevin and I, to do this. And I think when God calls you to something, he equips you, he protects you, he walks with you the entire way. And that's what happened. He gave us the verse in Nehemiah that says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And it was, and it protected us.
And Eric, the Bible talks so prolifically about the end times and the climate, spiritual climate. Ephesians 6:12, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the power of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And you and I could cite a whole lot more verses that talk about this kind of a spiritual climate in the last days.
Yeah, that's very true. In fact, in the chapter before, Ephesians chapter 5, Paul says to prove what is acceptable to the Lord, but yet have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. And really, it is all through the scriptures, and we are to teach those around us and help them to understand. I want to echo what Jill said, that when Melanie and I wrote the first 3 books that we did on rock music, and I say we, she did a lot of the research, some of that was heavier to us than when I wrote my book, Entertaining Spirits Unaware, on the world of the occult, or my book on spiritual warfare, either one. I think part of that was the place we were at in our Christian walk with God, but we were so sure that God had not only called us, but had confirmed over and over and over, and that we were protected to do this by him. And maybe that's a warning for others. Don't call yourself into this kind of ministry, because that could be the most dangerous thing you'd ever do spiritually. Make sure that God is specifically calling you. I think all Christians should have an understanding of the things we're going to talk about today from a Christian viewpoint, but to do the research from the actual occult and New Age and mystic books, that's a different story.
Well, both of you have sent me some interesting statistics, and I want to spend just a minute on them. And Jill, you sent me an article online, and we can't go through it, but it says 71% of people have had a paranormal experience. 34% believe in existence of ghosts. 65%, this is a good statistic, 65% of people believe Ouija boards are dangerous. I kind of wish I would have known that years ago. 40% believe houses can be haunted. And Eric, you sent me some interesting stats as well. Almost 30% have played games that are paranormal related. 30% have had a fortune told. And Eric, you said to me that Wicca, witchcraft, and paganism in the last 10 years, and probably even the last 5 years, but in a span of a decade, has risen almost 1,700%. Not 17%, but 1,700%.
Yeah, that's those who identify themselves as being involved in that. And at the same time, that, by the way, was in the ERA survey. And at the same time, during the same 10-year period, those people who identified with Christianity dropped by almost 10%. It was 9.7%. So we have a dropping of those who identify with biblical standards and a skyrocketing amount of people who are now seeking out and wanting to be involved in the paranormal.
What's driving this? Jill, do you feel what's driving it primarily? And there's obviously many things, but would the primary one be the entertainment industry?
Oh, definitely. I think the entertainment industry, the fact that we have all of this information available online, it's the super highway of occult knowledge and experience, the internet. And unfortunately, people are driven to find some kind of power, some kind of strength apart from God, because of course we are all in rebellion against God. And Acts 16 talks about this. We're warned, actually, Jan, in Acts 16, that there is something called the doctrine of the demons, that they have been teaching throughout the centuries. And part of this doctrine of the demon is that secret knowledge exists and that it can be found outside of God. And that's really what a cult is, hidden or secret things.